Hi Emily, I hope you've had a lovely weekend with just you and Mummy. Nathan's been off on cub camp. And I hope you had a really fun day. Anyway, last week I said I'd read you another book. We're going to go for Cinderella. And what I did, I went to the library and got this version, the Disney version. It's a bit different to the one that we normally have. This one's got a few more characters, a few more details in it. But nonetheless, very enjoyable, I hope. So, let's read the Walt Disney classic Cinderella. Once upon a time in a small kingdom lived a beautiful girl called Cinderella. Her mother had died when she was very young, and so Cinderella lived alone with her father. She loved her father dearly, and he knew that his daughter needed a mother, so he married again. Cinderella's stepmother had two daughters of her own, called Drusilla and Anastasia. Soon, however, Cinderella's father died, leaving his daughter to be cared for by her stepmother. Cinderella soon realised that her new family were jealous of her charm and beauty. Before long, she was forced to become a servant in her own home, living in a tiny bedroom in the attic. She only had birds and mice as friends, but through it all, Cinderella still believed her dream would one day come true. Oh, poor Cinderella. All her lovely friends though, the birds and the mice and all the little animals. One morning, Jack, the little mouse, came running in. A visitor had been caught in a trap. "Hurry, Cinderella! Come, come," he called. Cinderella was worried because she really cared for the mice. She always made sure they had enough to eat and even made little clothes for them to wear. She dashed out of her room and ran down a long stairway to the cellar. When Cinderella reached the trap, she found a plump little mouse caught inside. Cinderella gave him a little shirt, cap and shoes. She decided to call him Gus. Cinderella headed for the kitchen to start breakfast. "Don't forget to warn Gus about Lucifer," she called out to Jack. Lucifer belonged to Cinderella's stepmother. He was a sly and lazy cat, and all the other animals hated him, especially Bruno the dog. After Cinderella had given Lucifer his milk, she went out into the yard. Ooh, don't like the sound of Lucifer. "It's breakfast time, everybody," Cinderella called sweetly. The chickens gathered round Cinderella as she tossed them corn to eat. Major the horse watched happily from the barn. The mice were invited too, but first they had to get past Lucifer. Bravely, Jack tiptoed silently up behind the nasty cat. With one swift kick, Jack knocked the cat's paw out from under him and splat! Lucifer's face fell right in his bowl of milk. Now the mice had time to scurry past Lucifer and out into the yard. Good old Jack. But Gus was so busy gathering food, he didn't notice Lucifer creep up on him until it was too late. At the last minute, Gus managed to escape and scamper up the kitchen table and hide under a teacup. Just then, a voice shrieked from upstairs, "Cinderella!" Cinderella's mother and stepsisters were impatient for breakfast. Cinderella rushed into the kitchen and grabbed the breakfast trays for the family. She was in such a hurry she didn't notice Gus hiding under one of the teacups. Carefully balancing the trays, Cinderella climbed the long stairway to the bedrooms. As she reached the top of the staircase, she heard a familiar screech. "Cinderella!" It was Drusilla. Cinderella rushed into Drusilla's bedroom. "Take that ironing and have it ready in an hour," Drusilla demanded. Next, Cinderella went to Anastasia's room to give her breakfast. "It's about time," Anastasia whined. Just as Cinderella left the last tray with her stepmother, she heard a frantic scream. Anastasia had discovered Gus under her teacup. She ran to complain to her mother. "Come here," Cinderella's stepmother ordered from the dark shadows of her bed. Cinderella moved towards the bed and pleaded, "Oh, please, I don't think that I—" "Hold your tongue," said the stepmother commanded. Assuming Cinderella had put Gus under the teacup on purpose, her stepmother gave her a list of extra chores to do, including giving Lucifer a bath. Meanwhile, at the royal palace, the king was discussing his son with the Grand Duke. "It's time he got married," said the king. Then he had an idea. "We'll have a ball," he said, "and invite every young maiden in the land. The prince will surely choose one of them to marry." The invitations were sent out that very day. When the invitation arrived from the palace, Cinderella took it straight to her stepmother. Drusilla and Anastasia could hardly contain their excitement. Realising that she too was invited, Cinderella quickly joined in. Her stepsisters laughed at the idea. They're not very nice, those stepsisters at all, are they? But her stepmother said, "I see no reason why you can't go if you get all your work done and find something suitable to wear." Ooh, not very nice. Cinderella rushed upstairs to search for the right gown to wear. She chose one that had belonged to her mother. When the mice said that it looked a little old-fashioned, Cinderella smiled. She knew that with a little work she would have a wonderful new dress. "Cinderella, Cinderella!" her stepsisters and stepmother called out frantically. "Oh, now what do they want?" Cinderella sighed, heading for the door. The mice realised that Cinderella would never have time to finish the dress, so they decided to do it themselves. What great friends Cinderella's got there. Gus and Jack found a pretty pink sash and shiny string of blue beads that Cinderella's stepsister had thrown away. Soon, with a needle and thread, the simple dress was turned into a beautiful gown. Oh, that's lovely. Look, there's the ribbon, there's the blue beads. There they are with a needle and thread. What great friends. Later that evening, Cinderella climbed wearily up into the attic. Her stepmothers and stepsisters had kept her busy right up until it was time to leave for the ball. Now she would only dream about what it would be like to meet the prince. Then Cinderella heard something behind her. She turned and saw her new dress. "Surprise!" called her friends. Cinderella was overwhelmed and thanked her little friends for all their hard work. She dressed quickly and ran down the stairs to join her stepsisters. When Drusilla and Anastasia saw Cinderella, they were filled with jealousy. "Why, you little thief!" screamed Drusilla, tearing at the beads around Cinderella's neck. Then Anastasia grabbed the sash. "That's mine!" she shrieked, ripping it from her dress. Soon Cinderella's beautiful gown was in tatters. Heartbroken, Cinderella ran to the garden in tears. Now her dream would never come true. "There's nothing left to believe in, nothing," she sobbed. Then a strange glow appeared in the garden and magical stars shone around Cinderella's head. To her surprise, it was her fairy godmother. A fairy godmother! Cinderella dried her tears and felt happy at last. Cinderella's fairy godmother waved her magic wand over a pumpkin. "Bibbidi bibbidi boo," she sang, and the pumpkin became a beautiful coach. Then, before they knew it, Gus, Jack and 2 of their friends were turned into 4 proud white horses. Major became the coachman and Bruno was transformed into the footman. With a final wave of her wand, the fairy godmother dressed Cinderella in a magnificent ball gown and sparkling glass slippers. As Cinderella stepped into her carriage, her fairy godmother gave her a warning. "You only have until midnight," she said. "On the last stroke of 12, the spell will be broken." The prince noticed Cinderella the moment she entered the palace. He thought she was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Taking her hand in his, he led her to the dance floor. It seemed as if they had been dancing only minutes when Cinderella heard a clock chime. It was midnight. "I must go!" cried Cinderella, racing out the ballroom and down the palace steps. She ran so fast that neither the prince nor the Grand Duke could catch her. But she lost one of her glass slippers along the way. Cinderella jumped into her coach just as the Grand Duke found her slipper. At the last stroke of midnight, the coach turned back into a pumpkin and Cinderella found herself dressed in rags once more. Then she noticed she still had a glass slipper. She looked up into the sky with a smile, hoping her fairy godmother could hear. She whispered, "Thank you for everything." The next day, news spread that the prince was madly in love with the mysterious young woman who had lost her glass slipper. By royal decree, that means a royal command, the king is ordering it, it had been decided that the girl whose foot fitted the glass slipper should marry the prince. Cinderella's stepmother was determined that either Drusilla or Anastasia would be the prince's bride. She did not want Cinderella to try on the slipper in case it fitted her, so she locked Cinderella in her room just as the Grand Duke and footman arrived at their house. Poor old Cinders, what a nasty stepmother she's got. Anastasia and Drusilla took it in turns to try and squash their big feet into the tiny glass slipper, but it was no good. It would just not fit. "Is there no other ladies in the household?" If there are no other ladies in the household, we'll bid you good day," said the footman. But Jack and Gus had managed to get the attic key from the stepmother's pocket and free Cinderella from her room. Just as the Grand Duke and footman were about to leave, Cinderella called out from the top of the stairs, Your Grace, please wait. May I try on the slipper?" Cinderella's stepmother demanded that Cinderella not be allowed to try on the glass slipper. The Grand Duke ignored her. But as he approached Cinderella, her stepmother tripped him up with her cane. The slipper flew into the air and shattered onto the floor. But Cinderella reached into her pocket and brought out the other glass slipper. The Grand Duke took the slipper and placed it on her foot. It was a perfect fit. Soon the bells of the palace rang out on Cinderella's wedding day. The king and the Grand Duke smiled as they watched the happy couple get married, but no one was happier than Cinderella. At last all her dreams had come true. She could live happily ever after without her wicked stepmother, Drusilla and Anastasia, ruining everything ever again. That is a lovely story, Em. I'm so glad you like Cinderella, and I think this is one of the best versions. You'll find out a lot with a lot of things. There's always different versions of things that happen, whatever it is. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed reading it. Mwah. Love you, honey. Mwah, mwah.